I think one of the realities that we have to face is that it's exhausting. It's exhausting to be a citizen of any country, to be an employee in any company in the world these days, because as you point out, leaders and companies and governments themselves have to deal and navigate a world of constant change. There is no normal, right? Supply chains and disruption, the geopolitical conflicts that we're all aware of, the technology, which we just heard a very inspiring but terrifying, actually, summary of what is possible technology-wise. Is there a fear of being obsolete in your job or even in your country? And of course, we want to have workplaces that are sustainable. We want to promote people that don't look like us. So it's a lot of stress at the middle of the company. And I think these days for leaders, whether you're at the minister level or at the CEO level or a project leader with people that are responsible, that you're responsible for, how do you get into the mental life of the people that you're responsible for? Not just their digital life, not just their physical life, not just their social life, but how are they actually engaging? You mentioned the points about well-being and purpose. That's key. The most renewable energy resource in the world every day is people energy. What gets you up in the morning to be able to solve all these problems, which are not going to go away? And in fact, it is about how do you unlock and unleash the purpose that people have, and they want to go to work and have purpose and well-being. They want to be connected in a team that's going to win a championship, whatever that team analogy may be. And I think it's just very difficult to, as a leader and as a employee or citizen, to navigate that. One of the things, I just published an article in the Harvard Business Review this week. The notion was, are business obsolete? Because if we're always changing, and there's always a new transformation, ESG transformation, sustainability, digital, generative AI, how do you actually really change? Because you're always it's exhausting, but also how do you prioritize? Because you're just knee-jerking from being weary versus being really ready. And I talked a little bit about, in the article, about looking at life sciences, looking at biology, Darwinian rules, survival of the company and the people that are most adaptive. So it's not the fact that there's change, but how do you create, as a leader and as a minister or head of state, a country and a company that is adaptive and able to deal with change and actually regenerate itself. So the transformations that I think the joy will come from leaders and companies that realize that this is a human problem. It's not a technological problem. It's not just a supply chain problem. It's how do you unlock the sense that you can, as a group of people, and usually in the middle of a company, not at the top and not at the very new level, at the middle of the company where the power is, how do you get them to believe that they have purpose in solving the problems of the day, and that the company that they're working in has that same alignment, that same fit?
So there is this constant transformation that needs to be catered to. And you believe in the 3 Ps, people, purpose, and praise. Would you share some tips on how leaders can implement people, purpose, and praise within their organizations?
Yeah, I think the first priority of a leader is to create followership, which means creating an environment where there is actually purpose and joy at work. In another HBO article I wrote, even before the pandemic, even before the recent disruptions of the last few years and even last few months, is that we should make joy a priority. And what's missing is a sense, and we did a lot of research, as you would, around the world, countries, company sizes, demographic, Generation Z versus Generation B. I'm a happy boomer, and I've raised some spoiled but good-natured millennials, but it's a very diverse workplace. But there were some things that were very constant, which is not enough role clarity and harmony, not enough acknowledgement, not enough sense of impact. What am I doing? Why am I here? What is my who is my customer? And that's why the notion, and in the book that I wrote on, and the podcast on this notion of making joy a priority, first, you shouldn't settle for anything less. You're born happy, your parents love you, you go to school happy, you go to work happy. So what happens? There's this joy gap. And the pieces that I found in doing the research, talking to people, academics, sports figures, academics, other CEOs, is that it does boil down to those 3 Ps: people, purpose, and praise. People want to be safe psychologically and physically. They want to be seen. They want to be supported. They want to be inspired. So the people agenda always has to be, what is it that I can do for you, not just what I want you to do. The people agenda, and there's a whole set of things we can talk about a little bit later with time on the people agenda, but that's very important because people form your culture, right? Your habit, your values become behaviors, become habits, become cultures. That's people. And then there is the praise side. There's a lot of research about being in a championship team and understanding what your role is, and the team is acknowledged. But what we found is that what's really motivational is not just team praise. The company did really well. The country's doing so well. But it's individual praise. It's singling out. Rudolph, you did a really great job in putting this team together and setting up a really impossible agenda, et cetera, et cetera. Individual praise makes people really feel that they're seen, going back to the people agenda. And then if you have people and praise, that leads to, well, what are you praising people for? What are the people together for? It's for purpose. You know, you want to be number 1 in this business sector? Do you want to have the happiest country in the world? Do you want to be the safest country? Or whatever that purpose is has to be cascaded from the leadership, but it has to address what's really underneath the surface in the mental life of the people that you're trying to inspire. And so if you put those purpose, people, and praise together, you will have harmony in the workplace, you will have a sense of acknowledgement, a sense of team-based impact, and that creates the conditions, I think, for a great culture. All cultures in the country or in the companies or in your teams that you can influence needs to be not only intentional. What do we want? The culture should not be the worst behaviors that you tolerate. It should be purposive too, and it should be aspirational. In my company, we're basically a company of professionals. It's a knowledge-based business, global, 50 offices, 40 countries, and what I try to do is not just create a culture of, you hear about DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, which has become quite politicized in the United States where I'm from. I talk about the ABCs: allyship, belonging, and culture. Allyship is a sense of respect and empathy for other people that are not yourself, that didn't grow up in the same way, don't have the same religion, don't have the same education, don't look like you. That's called allyship, being a human first and a citizen too. The second is, if you have a culture of allyship, you will have a sense of belonging. We have questionnaires. We ask our people, do you feel, this simple questionnaire every 6 months, do you feel that you're respected? Do you feel that you belong? And I think a sense of belonging, engagement, is something that's very human. And allyship and belonging are less political than some of the other pieces. And if you have allyship and belonging, you have a really good chance at having an amazing culture. And the culture should outlive the leader, and it should outlive the company. People should leave and we all become alumni. I'm going to become an alumni of my own company, but I want to be able to say good things about my company and my experience. I think people that leave a country, when they go and say, listen, UAE, amazing place for these reasons, the culture should outlive the leader and the people themselves in some sense. So those are maybe some mindset approaches to how you create a successful company that has joy, well-being, purpose at the center of both the humans, it's a human case for it, but also institutionally, how you create something that outlives yourself.
In the UAE, we have a term for allyship, and what is it? It's tolerance, right? We have a Ministry of Tolerance, we have a Minister of Tolerance. This is our equivalent to your allyship. And I would like to know a little bit about the business case for joy at work for any skeptics in the room. It's expensive to have a healthy workforce, to have a positive workforce, to have a joyful workforce. What is the business case for joy at work?
Well, it's expensive, but is it worth it is always a question, right? Do you believe in human capital? Do you need your people to help represent your product and your brand, to manage your customers, to develop new products in the R&D pipeline? So if you're not motivating your people pipeline, your human capital, the business case in many industries that I've seen, whether they're services businesses or product businesses, certainly global businesses, they fall apart. It's expensive to hire people and train people. It's expensive to lose people, more importantly. So I think if you go through if you go through the rigor and discipline of identifying what kind of people you want to have in your company, who do you want representing your product, designing your product, selling your product, using your product, et cetera, that's a huge investment of the business model. The business model is contingent upon people delivering that. I mentioned at the beginning all the change in the world. The middle of the company is exhausted. You're asking me to do so much, it's just too hard. Well, think about a world where those people are waking up every day. They hit the floor, 6 in the morning, 5 in the morning, excited to solve those problems. That is a world that I want to lead. That is a world that I want to be in, because the people energy will lead to the business case. You know, it's not something that you write on a spreadsheet and say, well, if I spend this much on training and I spend this much on team building, this is the outcome. It really does link to, are people important to your business model? We're all customers of whatever, you know, business to customer, business to business. So we realize intuitively that I will not like a product if the people who behind it don't believe in the product. They don't believe in the consulting firm or the advisory firm or the consumer goods or the car or whatever it is that you're purchasing. So I think the business case is pretty clear. It gets back to the human case for why we go to work, why we wake up and vote every day.
But how do we balance the collective mission of the organization with employees' individual fulfillment? How do we create that balance?
Well, I think it is a balance, as you point out. I mean, we have this model of the X. You have the human purpose. You know, your life is like a vector. Those of you that went to, remember math, a vector has both force and direction. Direction is happiness, force is joy. So it's what you're moving in a certain direction, a company is moving in a certain direction. And there's a really happy balance if you both find each other, there's a fit. You pick any company, I'm sure that they have a profile of what they want. These are people that believe in the product. They're people that have a certain skill set, a willingness to learn, an ability to work with other people, people that have emotional intelligence, not just a good resume. And I think the companies have a right and a privilege and also responsibility to be clear about what they're looking for in the people that they hire. And I think it's important for also the companies, because many people that they hire don't really know what they want to be when they grow up. They want to be in a place which treats them with respect. They'll get good training. They can find another job. And I think it's up to the individual to also have a sense of what they want to do. In some of my prior articles, I think here and also at Davos, I talked about a notion which I borrowed from Japanese. I'm Chinese, but born in Taiwan, but very much a respect for some of the ancient philosophies. And many of you noticed this notion of ikigai, which is a Japanese version of purpose. And it basically says there are 4 things that if you're an individual or a company for that matter, it's just a general framework. There are 4 things that you need to ask yourself, not just one thing. The 4 things are, what is it you're passionate about versus what you can be paid for and make a living? That's one set of dimensions. The other is, what does the world need and what are you good at? So if you focus only on one dimension, I really am good at this, or I want to get paid for that, you're not going to really be happy. You're not going to have a sense of self-discovered purpose. So I think it's the obligation of both the individual to find out what's important to them, and then they will find the company or the country, for that matter, where they feel like they belong and have a sense of tolerance, et cetera. And the company needs to be very clear. This is what we're looking for. This is our business purpose. This is why we exist. And then you have a free market of ideas, I guess the other piece that I would mention that's required is for leaders. Again, we talked about the individuals, we talked about the companies, but the leaders themselves also need to set an example. They need to, for example, if they believe in human capital, they need to set up training. They need to, there's a lot of talk about technology and fear of FOBO, fear of being obsolete. You've heard about that, not fear of missing out, but fear of being obsolete. Well, what about a company and a country that promises you lifelong employability based on constant skill development, upskilling, upgrading, learning, lifelong learning? Now that doesn't mean you're promising someone lifelong employment at company A or company B. That's probably unrealistic these days. And of course, the younger generations are more impatient than my generation. And I thought I was pretty impatient. But in order to satisfy the labor market, the people capital market, you need to be able to have, as a leader, show authentic commitment to the people. Ask them what they need, not just what I need from you. And I think those are some ingredients, I think, for people and companies to find that happy balance, that happy set of choices.
But with the advancement of technology, this is incredibly difficult. We were hearing yesterday from E&D about how coders were becoming obsolete because AI is now doing the coding. And this is what we've been telling our children to study for the past 5, 6, 7 years. So how do you keep up with the consistently changing technological innovation?
Yes, and I think any individual technology could be disruptive. But every technology and every advancement ever since the last 200 or 300 years has also created a new set of jobs, a new set of skills. Technology shifts. There's always job losses, even in some of the most well-known companies in the West Coast of the North America and the East Coast of Asia go through these sort of disruptions. Technology creates even more and more opportunity. I think for leaders of companies and countries, the idea is to have your workforce, your employee force, embrace change, embrace the learning, embrace the technology, and be willing to learn new skills. Because if you just sit in the corner as a turtle, or whatever the analogy is, you will be a victim of change, as opposed to, as I mentioned at the beginning, regenerating yourself, adapting yourself for the world, which is always going to change. You're never going to get rid of that. You're never going to get rid of a new technology that surpasses the next one. I was amazed at what I just saw in the session you led just prior. Just imagine all the possibilities that come from that. And again, we're all humans. There is still the human element of every technology. There's still going to be a need for human health care, the ability to diagnose, ask the right questions, be a good advisor, be a good parent, be a good citizen, educators and teachers. So yes, technology can be scary. It's scary to me too, but it's also something that you should embrace and adapt into your work life to make your life easier.
And how would you say employees can be incentivized to seek self-fulfillment while fulfilling the organization's mission?
Well, there shouldn't be a choice between either or. I think there should be, as I said, a harmony between what you're trying to do, what you're getting out of the experience, your entire work experience, the colleagues that you work with, and the company and their business purpose and the like. I think it's important for leaders to be good leaders, but also workers and employees to be good workers and employees. They need to stand up and say, we need training. I feel like I'm becoming obsolete. I'd like to learn more about the interaction between life science and technology. Are there skill programs for me to move from being a call center person to someone who actually designs the call center technology itself for people that I used to be working alongside as teammates? So there needs to be a sense of voluntarism and choice that I think that leaders need to provide in their environment, so that people are not. They should have agency over their life. They should feel that I can learn a lot from being here, and if not, I will have a great career and another stepping stone somewhere else, regardless of what happens in the broader technology world.
Unfortunately, we're running out of time, but just very quickly, if work culture does move towards more joy and less burnout, what impact could this have on the world, and what impact could this have on cultures going forward?
I think it can only be positive. I think if you think about it, a company is a team of teams, and a country is a community of communities. And if you have these basic principles, that human purpose links to institutional purpose, that allyship is important, that a sense of belonging is important, that a sense of intentional aspirational culture is important, you will have joy, you will have purpose, you will have a place where people are excited to go to work. They're proud to be a part of this country. They're proud to say, I work for this company, because they will be fulfilled. And I think that to me is a very positive spirit of the World Government Summit as well. The more you learn about other cultures, other ways of looking at some of these challenging problems in a constant change world, a no normal world, I think we need to go through this. We need to embrace and adapt to the change that is around us, but keep this as our compass. You know, personal joy, institutional joy, and purpose is definitely something we should go for. Don't settle for anything less. Don't settle for anything less.
Thanks so much for sharing your profound experience and your expertise with us today. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
No, I thank you. Thank you.